How does that sound, Mr. Sound Guy, the drums?
I think it sounds beautiful.
Can you hear it as the same volume level as all the others? Like our voices?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, this is good.
So, would you like to bring us in?
Actually, let's let that play for just a minute.
Yep.
Welcome to Steemit Talk. I'm your host, Winston Wolf, and we have my co-host,
Gifted Gaia.
and we also have Psycho Chica with us as before.
Hello.
And we've actually got a new addition here. This is our friend Quantum Anomaly.
How's it going, everyone?
And so, yeah, we're back with episode 003. And I hope you enjoy this. I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. We've got a couple of just bullet points here. But as far as where this could end up, we could laugh, we could cry.
I think the train is going to leave the tracks.
The train is going to leave the tracks.
I believe there's visual evidence.
Oh, yeah. One thing that we have been thinking about here is changes that have been happening on Steemit lately. It's been an interesting week. We kind of have some things to talk about. For example, what sort of changes have happened on Steemit?
Reputation!
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
That's.
I'm happy with my level.
I am too. I scored a lot higher than I did. I feel like I'm in college again.
I think I saw you're up at 7.
I'm at 7. Yeah.
I am right behind at 6,
At
which
6.
honestly I don't even know what that means, and I think that we could probably clarify that later. You guys could.
In here in a moment, what we might do, or if you want to go ahead and look for it, there is actually a reputation.
The chart.
Yes, actually, we have a chart.
There's an awesome little chart.
Beautiful.
Let's take a look at this.
It's kind of like experience points, where it takes more each level to go up as you get higher, but it also goes in the negatives that same direction. As far as
It's also related directly to like your voting power and your ability, how much you like curate a post when you upvote it, right?
pretty much, as well as, also if you were to downvote something,
right?
It suddenly, if you're a low reputation, you're flagging something doesn't carry much weight.
Right. It's a pitiful flag.
So, okay, so you said it goes above and below. What are the caps on that? Am I going to hit like level 99 or something?
It scales from -9 to 9, I believe.
That's nice and easy to keep track of.
And I show here, okay, Gifted Gaia, what did you say your number is?
I thought the number next to my name was 6.
So there are 1,500 accounts that have a 6.
Huh. Out of how many accounts, I wonder?
About 45,000.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, at the time, I mean, this was 4 days ago, so I don't really. Now, Psycho Chica, what did you say yours is?
I'm a 6.
You're a 6. Okay, so 1,500. I'm a 7, as I said a moment ago, and there are 712 of the accounts as of 4 days ago. That may have gone up since then. I'm not really sure how they do that.
So I'm pretty sure I moved from a 3 to a 5.
Yeah.
So when I registered my account like a week and a half ago, but I really didn't start using it until like just a few days ago, which was about the same time as Rep came out. And I started at a 3, but after getting some upvotes and getting some people commenting and interested in the content that I was creating and engaging with other people on their comments and their content, I noticed that it's tied directly to how much other people. If somebody's higher level than you and they upvote you, then it bumps your rep up.
Right.
Huh.
Okay.
Kind of like let's say an ELO in League of Legends.
Right. Yeah. So if you interest somebody better than you, then you get better.
And I'm sorry, this is probably, we're throwing a lot out here already, but we failed to introduce that we have a guest just kind of hanging out with us tonight.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so sorry.
No, I mean, this is our friend Gat, and I mean, Gat, you're not even on social media as far as I know, so we're going to be talking about a website called Steemit, and, we'll be talking about how that works and throwing things out there, and I guess if you have any questions, just holler out, and we'll try to answer that. That's kind of what we're doing here is the Steem Talk Podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely. I not on Facebook, not on Reddit, not on any social media sites whatsoever. Never have been. So this is completely new to me, but I do, from what I've heard about Steemit, it seems like it's completely different. Something that anyone, even if you're a novice, you can enjoy.
So you're not on anything.
No.
That's amazing.
None whatsoever.
And I say that's amazing because we're in the United States of America, and there's like hardly anybody that's not on any sort of social media. So that's awesome, actually.
It's a rarity.
But you know what a computer is, right?
I promise I'm not an 80-year-old that's
No,
never seen
for
any
sure.
kind of technology before. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't like all the, BS that it comes along with being on social media nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just insane. I'd rather keep out of that. But like I said, with Steemit, it's completely different. You have those people that are actually pouring their hearts out with legitimate ideas and everything else instead of just what you get on everything else. I mean, it's great.
100%.
I agree.
And you know of Steemit by way of Psycho Chica.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not just a loose connection that we had. We didn't pull a stranger in off the street.
Well, and I guess one of the other things that I saw that was new this week, or at least new to me, is the chat feature. That might have been around, I guess, for a while, but it seems like there's some communication that's happening there.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, steemit.chat.
It's basically like So I started in the internet when I was about 12 years old, and we started with AOL on a 14.4 modem. And one of the first things that I was really drawn to was chat rooms. And it was really even before private instant messaging. It was all just a conglomerate. And it feels like the same. I've tried to get back into chat rooms since. I've tried to get into live chats on like Reddit and stuff. The Steemit chat room is the closest thing to that initial vibrant connection of the original internet, like at least for me when I was young. It's very real and very personal, and yet at the same time you still have all of that wonder of these having a real connection with somebody that's across the globe.
I completely agree, and I had AOL in like 1999. My first computer I bought in 1999. I was 19
Floppy
years
disk.
old. Yeah, absolutely. 3.5. Anyway, one of the first things I did when I first got my computer was got on AOL because I had a couple of friends that were on there.
Yep.
And I got on there and it was just like, oh my God, why have I not done this any sooner? And it kind of disappeared. It went from chat rooms to forums, and then after forums, Facebook and MySpace. Well, not in that order.
Yeah.
But and so everything turned into Facebook, and I don't know. Everybody's sort of got this like competition of keeping up with the Joneses to make their lives look best.
I feel like the genuine, or I don't know what the word that I'm trying to find here is, that kind of that awestruck feeling that you're talking to a real person on the other side of the globe went away with MySpace.
Yes.
It became as much more personal as it was, because now you had pictures and posts of that person's life. It felt less personal and it felt less real.
Well, and just to kind of agree with you on that point, it seemed like for me, MySpace was the one where pictures came into play. And now all of a sudden, it's not just chat. We're in a visual communication setting. Right. And boy, as far as our culture goes, that changes everything.
About a step away from VR, really. I mean, we're pretty much there. The door is open wherever we're walking through it. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, before long, we'll be able to walk down a virtual hallway of somebody's stuff.
But I feel like that Facebook didn't feel genuine or fresh. I wasn't awestruck by meeting somebody across the globe on, MySpace or Facebook or even YouTube, being in a conversation with them. For some reason, the genuine nature, or at least the enticement for everybody to be their genuine selves on Steemit, has brought back some of that awe to me, where I walk in a Steemit chat and it's like, hey, what's going on, Quantum Anomaly, how you doing? And people that I don't know, who, just because I've posted some real pieces of me to this public forum and I've opened myself up to it, they're looking back at me like, hey, I respect you for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I can think of several people here I could probably give a shout out to right off the bat, actually, who every time I walk in, it's like, cheers, man. It's like, Norm!
Right.
Well, I think nowadays there's such a mass of people on Facebook that, it's so littered with all these fake people and these fake profiles that are just, because think about how many people are on Facebook.
It's like 1 billion now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you think about those people that are on MySpace, it's not even close.
Well, that's not.
So now you even have even more of that littering of people that just
It's just saturated with crap.
Yeah.
Well, and again, part of that is that like even the people that you actually know that are a real profile, you like know this person in real life, and you look at their profile and you're like, that's not you. I know you had a crappy day.
Well, just to kind of flip it around a little bit here, if you think about it, a lot of the things that get voting attention and get some money are those stories with authenticity and human connection.
Yes.
And so when you turn it around in the sense of, look at what the market is wanting.
The market wants authenticity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not the commercial market.
Not the commercial market,
But that's
right now the
Facebook.
Steemit market wants authenticity.
I don't know.
There's a
I
double-edged sword
I
there.
beg to disagree there. That the commercial market has not yet adapted to what the people want. Like how many people are running an ad block? How many people when was the last time you clicked on an ad that was targeted at you because of the cookies on your computer because you haven't deleted your search history in 10 months?
Yeah.
Like I haven't. So that means it's failed. And they have all of my data. I'm not trying very hard to get rid of it.
Technology has provided a way for you to be around that via your ad blocker.
And
I
Yeah,
really
right.
want a gif of Ron Swanson smashing his computer from Parks and Recreation right now.
We'll throw that in just for no reason. We'll throw that in, and whenever somebody listens, they'll totally just come across as part of the recording and go, "Oh, that's where that came from."
Yep.
Hashtag meet tornado.
Meat tornado.
So, and I just wanted to, I thought that was a very good point, QA.
Yeah.
And, as far as what Gat said, I think he hit on something as far as there being so many profiles on Facebook. And I interrupted earlier to say that's not how many people, 1 billion is not how many people are on Facebook. That's how many active profiles they have. So
yeah,
to
one
me-
person could have 8 profiles.
Well, and I think that
80,000.
Steemit solves that in what Psycho Chica was hitting on as far as you're there to build that personal relationship yourself, and so you can't fracture off in 8 fake identities and continue to have that influence on this particular platform.
It's not to say that some people haven't tried.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
but
there's-
that's and verification. Again, Steemit is lifting from the foundation of all of the social platforms built underneath it.
Yeah.
Like verification's a Reddit thing, and it's a bigger thing on Steemit where. Like you're not verifying just for a subreddit. You're verifying for the social media platform itself.
For the whole community.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, and there's
absolutely.
been so much more policing. Like I think it was Rep Holder earlier was, talking in chat as far as that Thailand post and where it was copy and pasted, translated to get the downvotes going. Because it was up to like $1,500 by that point. And it's part of the community also policing itself and having the activity and being able to spur enough members to. It literally was down to 0 before it paid out.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
So to my knowledge, Steemit is small right now. Not like tiny, but it's not.
It's a hair less than about 50,000 people as of this recording.
And
And comparatively speaking, that is tiny.
That is.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to talk about that because I don't know if I joined Steemit, if I would want more people joining. I don't have that much faith in humanity that there's that many people
Let
out
us
there
try to give you some.
that can, give
Fair
me
enough.
something that if you say you have 1 million users and all of them can.
Well, if I was standing on the street corner and you walked by and I said, if you tell me a really good story, I'm going to give you $5. Would you try to tell me a great story?
Oh yeah.
Now, if anybody behind you was walking down the sidewalk, do you think they would stop and want to participate?
It depends. I mean, to me, time is a thing that people. A lot of people. I know money is a big incentive, but time to me is even a bigger incentive.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly what you have to realize too. Is in this particular ecosystem, you're not just investing in Steam. You're also taking. People are like, oh, I showed up, and not only was it free, they gave me.
A few bucks.
Yeah, they gave me some money.
And
that's
I think
awesome to get started.
That's kind of what my hypothetical was going into, is that you're not going to be able to stop other people from coming into it once they realize they can get paid for good
Right.
content.
I'd like to point out something though, which is something that as far as not being a person in social media, GAT, that is one of the things. Like Reddit is very popular, it is very large. But the great thing about Reddit is the subreddits. So Reddit is a huge community, right? There's I don't even want to guess how many people are logged in. registered, whatever.
Several
But-
million.
Right, at
Yeah.
least.
Hundreds of millions.
But there are sub-communities, and each sub-community is named after a topic of interest. Like, there's a sub-community for video games. There's a sub-community for Fallout 4 or a specific video game. And it's that way with culture, philosophy, science, mathematics,
Photography, everything.
special types of photography, special types of math. So you can dive deeper and deeper and get to a small community where there are only, a few hundred people. You're mentioning you don't want it to be bigger than 50,000 because that's a lot of people to manage. And that's true. I mean, what's the record? You can only have like 100 and some odd friends, like real friends.
Oh, that was
and
a
that's
Steemit
reach.
post.
Yeah, and that was a
150, I
Steemit
think.
post. I don't have that one referenced, but I'd heard that statistic before. So yeah, I get it. You don't want your community to be thousands of people.
Well, the thing with it, I would like, a social media site to kind of be like real life. Instead of what we have with Facebook, where you have 15,000 friends, half of them you don't even know who the hell they are.
Well,
on Steemit, I think you can find that where there are, you have that culture with Steemit. Steemit is a different kind of culture. People that are actually putting out things that make a difference, that actually people, not the, like this bullshit.
I've been way more vulnerable on Steemit.
Absolutely.
Well, and I think their model's set up where you walk in and your introduction post should be vulnerable. That should be the, and not in all cases, everybody's a different person. But I mean, to me, when I read through those posts, it felt like, okay, this is a place where you basically walk in and you say, all right, no bullshit. Here's who I am. Here's why I'm here. And the bulk of the posts I've read in that thread are that.
Well, and that kind of, that leads into the next question is really, how has Steemit changed you? And, to be perfectly honest, I got to, people are force extracting these ideas and getting creative and really digging into their true stories, I've found. Really just trying to, pull this kind of information out to tell the best story they possibly can, because that's kind of the whole point, is to get the best content out there that they possibly can.
So, answer the question. How's it changed you?
How has it changed me? I got to be honest with you. I've left just about every single other social media platform that we've even talked about here so far, and that's because people are being real, and I'm so glad to run into a place where I can actually find people who are being themselves and telling the truth and telling these awesome stories that they would probably never otherwise even tell.
Oh, I'd never read half this crap on Facebook, anywhere else.
No.
Anywhere.
People talk about the crap they dealt with while they were in the drive-thru at McDonald's, and how they,
specifically you, like as Winston Wolfe, before Steemit you were this. After Steemit, the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you have become that. What is that transition?
You got to put the spotlight on me.
I
like
do.
that. Okay.
You were eager to answer this question earlier, and everybody else started buzzing about it, but we forced you to hold back. So.
All right. Well, I tell you what. I will think about the answer to that question as we let Gifted Gaia. He said he's got a point here.
Well, I raised my hand because I feel like I've only been on Steemit for a few weeks, and as far as like the psychological impact that it's made, I mean, to me, the posts I've made have not necessarily been anything that I'm expecting much of anything back out from, but I'm going there posting things that I'm like, okay, enjoy drone photography as a hobby, and so here's a picture that I really enjoy, and I've got 300 of those on Facebook, but here's the one I really enjoy. So I'm going to put that one on Steemit, because I feel like as this community is building, and again, as we've referenced the type of people that are there, I feel like they should see the one that I feel really proud of. That's the good one, versus a whole album, in which case you may scroll through them and yes or no, there's some on there that I probably should pull. They're not all that great, to be honest with you, but in just having an album on Facebook, there it is.
Well, that's part of the joy when you have some of that mentality, just as far as curation of your own stuff, of what to produce, let alone curation that goes on the site. Think of all of the sifting that someone else has been doing for you. You don't have to go through hours of searching. It's presented.
That's a good point.
As I got to be honest with you, as a photographer and somebody who considers himself an artist, it's an ego check for damn sure, because people are reaching for their best right now.
Yeah.
And I've reached for my best. I've gone back. I've even reached for what I used to think was my best 10 years ago, which ever since then I've been like, I got better than that now. I'm cool. And I don't know. you expect that you're going to get a lot of attention. I'm not expecting to be on a trending page necessarily.
Everybody
but it would be cool.
hopes, though.
Oh, everybody does.
There.
But everybody also hopes to win the $333 million when they scratch that lottery ticket.
Have you bought?
3. So I don't care. You see what I'm saying? But
so you've made more Steemit posts than you've bought lottery tickets.
Especially since I started Steemit. Yes.
Right. So I mean, I don't know. For me, it has stoked the fire. I've been an artist a lot of my life. I've worked in every medium. I've done a lot of things. My hobby is collecting hobbies. But until I got into Steemit, I mean, I've always had the motivation to do stuff. I've never had the drive. And, like, I've always been motivated by, I could have a business, I could get attention, I could do it for myself, I could do whatever. But the drive is, like, convincing yourself to do it. And for me, Steemit's, of course, you know, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because it's like, this is, you know, my chance to be me. And the first thing is like, okay, who am I? And answering that question has been the adventure of the last couple of weeks for me. And I'm still answering it, but I feel like at least I'm trying to now, whereas before I would shrug that question off and not really care.
Well, and it's interesting to me because I think you kind of hit on this, and then as far as your reference earlier of being a photographer and throwing what you think is your best work up and it doesn't necessarily get the reaction that you were expecting, I think there's an interesting point that I've noticed where I've done that too. I'm a musician, and I've got 15 years worth of DJ mixes, and most of them within the last 5 years or so. When I've really kind of hit my stride, I feel I'm proud of those mixes. And I put something up that's got a lot of exposure on another social media platform, or at least had a really warm reaction. You throw it on Steemit, and you might get nothing. And you're right, that is an ego check, but I think it's an ego check for a good reason. I don't think it's somebody that's responding to you in a troll way and all of a sudden they hurt your feelings. I think it's just a manner of showing that there is so much good content on this website that that's great. I think that's a great problem to have.
Just because they downvote, or I'm sorry, they're not downvoting it. Just because it's not upvoted doesn't mean it's bad. That's the hardest thing to get over. There is a ton of good content that is not being curated right now because the population is still small.
That actually brings up a good point that we were talking about earlier. We were wanting to maybe talk about some things we've seen that we've thought were just straight awesome and got no love. What have you seen?
So there was, let me pull it up real quick. And of course, it was
the microphone obviously does not follow the man.
Sorry. There was a small conversation. This one was by William Banks. It was, did we just discover a Type 2 alien civilization? Not pop science or science fiction.
I've seen that.
So, yeah, this is talking to, and of course, this is an article that's gone around about the total output of Tabby Star and the fact that it's dimmed, and the kind of the fun leading theory is that there's some alien civilization building a Dyson sphere around it.
There's a weird sporadic sort of flicker
it
around
shimmers,
the star.
It flickers.
A quantum anomaly?
Yeah, a quantum anomaly. No, I didn't want to highlight this article necessarily because the content was generally new or anything else. It was just the fact that this is the kind of discussion that I personally have a lot of fun with, because I love to float that line between, what is hard science, what is really real, and what is, what are the limits of psychology and what are the limits of, the human mind. And these are one of those things where even mainstream science, there are all of the world's telescopes are starting to clock in and attempt to check time on this star to see if they can either prove that it's just comets or it's just space dust or it's gravity or whatever, and then there's but there's still this bit of hope that it's maybe it's an alien civilization. And there's the really key thing is not this article here but the comments. And I engaged in the comments because, somebody, a hard science commenter came in and said, oh, well, the dimming is probably just cosmological. And because it's not consistent. And
they were blaming it on comets,
right? They were blaming it on the fact that it was like that sometimes it was dimmer, and then it would get brighter, and then it would get way dimmer, and so they're like, it's got to be cosmological, because if somebody's building a Dyson sphere, it's going to be this planned, oriented thing. And I was like, I don't know. Have you ever seen a road construction project go in a planned, oriented manner? Like, maybe, the workers' union was on strike, they made a good deal, and so, everybody's super productive, and then one of the other commenters was like, hey, sorry I can't come to school today. My kid's got the gray goo, so, he's going to be out of it for a little bit. And I don't know, that sort of blurred line, I had a lot of fun with it. And
well, okay, but at the same time, you talk about them. I mean, that leaves a level of incompetence. But if you're going to be a type 2 Kardashev?
Yeah, type 2. So we're not a type 0 yet. Type 0 means we all speak the same language and we're all a unified people.
Okay.
So humanity's not quite there.
Huh. I actually I enjoyed that. I mean, and everything you said to me as far as we're talking about things that are out there and we can see them and we can't see them, we're not sure, our technology is trying to answer those questions. That's interesting to me, walking those lines as far as what is to be believed versus what is just our belief system that we're acting on. And actually, that's a great segue into what I saw this week, if you guys don't mind me taking over.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I stumbled across a community member by the name of Craig Grant.
Really quick, I'm sorry. I'm going to let you continue, but that guy's videos were one of maybe a couple or 3 different videos I saw that actually helped me make the decision to even come to Steemit at all. I had a coworker bring me there, but it was me doing a little bit of research and finding some of his videos. Wow. And continue.
That's
Absolutely.
An interesting synchronicity to me because this is really the first one that, I mean, I've just been enthralled by the content that's on this website, and at the same time, this is the one that I felt like spoke to me. And again, that's Craig Grant, and for those who don't know, that's Charlie Romeo Alpha India Golf Golf Romeo Alpha November Tango.
Somebody's work call service.
And it is currently 21:57.
Proper communication is important. So, and this person deserves credit, and that's why I said it that way. So anyways, I first found a music video of his in the music category of Steam. Yeah, do we have a word for that yet?
I think I call it a section.
I really hope that gets worked on.
Well, Steemit listeners, help us with that one.
Yep.
So I'm into music. I was watching music videos, and I found this guy. And the name of the song was From the Sun to the Moon, Energy Creates Earth Experience. Right Now I Live in Bliss.
Wow.
And that title was eye-catching.
to say the least.
Yeah,
that moves you.
So I clicked the button, and it's a hip-hop track. And I am somebody that does some live finger drumming. I love that 90 BPM tempo. It's really fun. But I don't typically listen to hip-hop. I listen to more of the drum and bass, electronica, liquid funk side of things. But the beat right away was catchy. And so, boom, you have my attention after that catchy title. And then the lyrics hit. And boy, those lyrics held meaning to me in a way that I related to the subject matter that he was describing. And it's somewhat what we talked about in our last podcast, which I felt was a huge synchronicity as far as the topics of belief. When I was mentioning you are the master that makes the grass green, and all the other down the rabbit hole things we were talking about last time.
Yeah.
And so I was just really pleased with this video, and so I decided to seek follow-up, and so I creeped over to his blogs and started discovering some of the other things he had posted, and there are some videos of just him ranting, and there's a nice correlation there as far as hearing a hip-hop poet and then crossing over and seeing his blogs where the music is not there and he's just literally talking like we are, and that was great. I've never caught that on any other website. But to continue, I came across a video, and that video was called Being Light. Being Light is definitely my pick for this week for the missed things that somebody might not have caught, and it is within the last week, so that's perfect. In my opinion, that was 19 minutes of incredibly thought-provoking insight. I, in general, liked the conversation, or just conversations in general that ask questions. And so it's not just listening and taking an input, but it's making you think. And it's like, I don't know, what would I do in that situation? Just getting the brain engaged. And I felt that there were some really good points made in his little 19-minute rant. And I'm saying rant because he also identified that as Craig Rant, which I thought was a clever wordplay off of his last name. Rant. Yeah, it's perfect.
He's got a hashtag just for that, Craig Rant.
That's perfect. His questions were very much on self-examination, or at least that's the way I took them as far as my imprinting. And I'm just going to speak about the first 5 minutes of what I saw in that video because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that wants to go watch the whole thing, and I definitely think you should. In example, there were a couple things that kind of resonated with me. And the first thing Craig states is basically trying to define the difference between the word believe, like you believe something, and then to know, if you actually know something.
Oh, man.
And that's a pretty deep question.
Yep.
The quote that I grabbed here was, it was, belief is me emotionally attaching myself to information that I can imagine. To know is me experiencing the right now. End quote. And again, for whatever reason, the wheels start turning. There's some good questions there. I started kind of connecting to that and putting it in my own context. And then he then goes on to just list some simple real-world examples of these models. Simply to say, like, as far as belief goes, as far as know goes, I know I'm sitting in this chair. I know there's a camera in front of me. And just those things that he knows. Versus, I believe there is a planet named Mars. And I believe that there is something called the universe. And that was great. That was exactly what you were talking about earlier as far as the Dyson sphere. Not necessarily
that leads, and so, like, I mean, I'm not going to try to tangent this too far, but
please do.
I've always felt like in searching for any kind of belief system or anything like that, like, I've always tried to build this foundation of like foundation of my own psychology is like the not the base, but, you know, up close to the top. I believe, like, the highest point, of course, is the truth, like the absolute truth, which I don't think anybody knows the full, all-encompassing truth, right? That would be what a lot of people would call God or the everything. Like, that's all truth. But then underneath...
The fourth dimension.
Right, or the 22nd, who knows? But I think that underneath that, it really closely tied, like you said, and like Craig said, is knowledge. So knowledge is definitely close to truth. It's stuff that we can experience, can witness, can prove to ourselves and stuff, and it leads us to the truth, right? Like true knowledge, you know, is that definitely a good foundation for things that are true is the knowledge of them, and the ability to experience them means they're at least more true than that which we can't experience or our imagination. And then underneath that is I basically the lower level of that part of the pyramid for me is belief. So you can believe in something, have no knowledge of it, and it's not true. But you can also believe in something that you have knowledge of that may or may not be true. And so you kind of build your way up to that. And that's my pyramid. That's my take from that.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it's exactly, belief and knowledge. He's saying to believe and to know. So that's specifically, I think, part of what he was talking about, but presented in your way, in your belief system. And in general, just speaking of belief systems and kind of tying this in, I had a conversation with Winston Wolfe on another social media platform several months ago. It was Facebook.
We're coming around full circle to something, which I don't know what he's talking about yet.
Well, and basically, and I just happened to remember this as I was watching this video and putting my thoughts into words here. We were somebody had been discussing the flat Earth theory.
Oh boy!
And so, your contention, Mr. Wolf, which I wholeheartedly agree with, was that in the past, before we had access to modern technology, the flat Earth theory very well may have been something that was a viable mindset. However, with today's technologies and our satellites, that theory should easily be quashed by simply sliding a satellite photo of the Earth across the table. And my retort to you during that conversation, and again, I'm stressing that I do not believe in the flat Earth theory myself.
Devil's advocate.
I'm just protecting all bases here. Was that this method of quelling the argument was only viable if you believed the pictures that you were looking at. And so it fell back onto the what do you know versus what do you believe thing. And we kind of went back and forth, and I was totally trolling you, and you were totally trolling me, and that's the way that
here's the problem with me and trolling is I'll fall right into the trap every single time.
Well, and I think Craig hit the nail on the head. He said, I believe there is a planet named Mars. Of course, everybody in this room thinks there's a planet named Mars. Right. But have any of us been there?
Based on our own empirical senses and also being presented the information we've been given, yes.
And now, other than Winston Wolfe, how many of us have tried to even look at it?
Oh, that little red dot in the sky?
Yeah.
So
I'm
you
your
know
resident
I
drone
yeah.
pilot.
Okay,
I've
there we
noticed
go.
that little red
That's
dot in
true.
the sky.
I mean, I've seen, but I mean, we've not seen any closer than that little red dot. I mean, none of us are, really amateur astronomers.
You mean with our own eyes, not necessarily somebody saying this is a picture that came from Hubble.
Right. Like I have not experienced it. Therefore, I only rely on the proof of others.
You can basically say, yes, I saw the red dot in the
I
sky.
saw the red dot, and somebody
then you're
else has a
attributing
big
that red dot is
Exactly.
Mars.
And I think
Right.
that's what Craig was trying to say. And again, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth. This is just how I took the imprinting in my belief system.
Sure.
I felt like that was the line, to believe and to know. And I felt like that wasn't necessarily an aha moment, but it definitely resonated. I was like, I get that. That makes sense to me. If I were to explain it, I'd probably use that terminology.
Yeah, no, that's way closer than a lot. I would try to push way further. I would probably start with Alpha Centauri.
There you go.
Like, but it's true. None of us have been to Mars. We've only sent robots there. So far as we know.
Well, I mean, you can even
1970s.
technically say that same thing, just as far as that iconic vision of Earth from space. We're assuming that that's true. I'm not doubting it myself, but we're assuming that that's the picture that was seen from up there.
And what's it really? I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand, but I didn't do that. We need a conch shell that kind of goes around.
No, we're all on one mixer.
We're on one mixer.
Remember, we fixed that.
That's true. Well, there's one particular debate I remember getting into a few years ago, not long after Curiosity landed. And what was that, 2012, 2013? I think it was 2012. And as a matter of fact, what is today, the 5th?
6th.
It's a weekend. I don't know.
Oh, my God. I think we may actually be 4 years to the day of Curiosity landing.
That would
I'm
be
not
an
even
insane
kidding.
synchronicity.
We've got Quantum Anomaly looking that up to do a fact
Let's
check
proceed.
right now. But at any rate, I've actually had I can't tell you how many people, especially on Facebook. It's always on Facebook. But people always have this weird sort of doubt about Curiosity even being on Mars because of the way that it takes selfies and actually looks like there's a camera floating in front of Curiosity itself.
Can you explain that?
Yes. It's the way that the picture is stitched together and the robotic
so
arm.
it's stitching.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's not one image. It's actually several images.
I was always boggled by that. So does it launch a little drone? So the date is August 6th,
which is tomorrow.
It's
Wow.
today.
Wow.
Today is the 6th.
Oh my God!
Good golly.
Today is.
Who else
Well,
watched the lander?
I absolutely
watched,
did.
Oh my God! I was glued 2 o'clock in the morning.
That was
watching the live
amazing.
feed.
Right.
And the thing is, I didn't even know then. I didn't know until a year later when I went to Florida that the thing is the size of an SUV.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
When I saw that them they landed this jet propelled thing and here's the animation, I was like, oh, it's
expecting
the size of a
little
a
RC
Corgi
car or
an
something.
RC car
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, it's
No.
20, 30 pounds. No, it's 2
it's
tons.
it's a freaking Lexus.
and they,
Well, I can't help but note that we're talking about all these esoteric themed consciousness. This article that spawned this to me, and again, go watch the video and you'll see that's exactly what we're talking about here. And boom, there's this crazy synchronicity, and that was
Wow.
not planned, folks.
Yeah.
that was totally
no.
unplanned. That's
So-
amazing.
So good conversation. Getting back to Craig, so we have this kick-ass music video that then leads me to one of the greatest titles I've ever seen. And again, I'm only talking about the first 5 minutes here. And so his first point was what we've just covered here as far as that line between belief and to know. And he got all that out of us just by that one question.
That's
so
amazing.
Let's start asking some of the other questions because again, this was good stuff. He followed that those points with the explanation to say, what I believe creates my perception, and my perception creates what I see in the light, and eventually what I experience.
You pause. So I'm mind blown. So I explained the first part of my foundation of my personal philosophy. The second part of my foundation is belief and perception creates reality. So what I believe plus what I see is my reality.
Oh, yeah.
For years, good old reality tunnels.
Oh,
to
yeah.
Give Robert Anton Wilson a shout out.
Robert
do.
Anton Wilson.
Praise
hey,
Bob.
everybody in this room is a pope, by the way.
That's right. Praise Bob.
Praise Bob. But no, that's awesome because that's something that I've always personally held really close to myself is like perception dictates reality. What you see is what is real to you.
Yeah.
That's what you
Exactly.
base everything off of.
And I mean, if we're just going to go back to what that question was, it was, excuse me, this one's not a question. This is more of a statement. But it's what I believe creates my perception, and my perception creates what I see in the light, and eventually what I experience. And to me, that is just resonating with the proverb or the mantra, "You are the master that makes the grass green." Which, of course, Robert Anton Wilson would define that as your chosen belief system creates your reality. And again, we've discussed all that in our last Steemit Talk podcast, so we don't need to necessarily get into that. In my opinion, quote, reality, unquote, and you almost have to say it that way if we're going to be honest, because there's 7 billion people, and so therefore there are 7 billion realities out there, not including all the animals and insects and every other fish in the sea.
Oh, no. If you want to go that way, we're talking infinity.
Well, and
every speck of every atomic,
and every one of those specks is completely subjective to the observer in their environment. And so that's interesting. I don't know. Steemit's an interesting environment. It's got my wheels turning here just off this first little bit, and I haven't even gotten through kind of the next part of what I was going to talk about in relation to that post, and I'll try to make this quick. Craig really then asks what I think is the best question in that first 5 minutes, and is, how do I reprogram myself to manage my beliefs better? How do I program myself to have a better experience in life? And that's another great question, and it actually immediately gave me a synchronicity of something that I hit on this morning. It was an experience I had this morning. I went to get a haircut. There was an old lady that was already getting her haircut when I walked in the door. I was sitting there on my phone waiting for my turn, and I overheard her speaking to the lady that was cutting her hair. It was early. We were the only 3 people in there at the time. And every single thing she talked about was a complaint. And it was just that really negative, bitter complaining where there wasn't anything that mattered. It was just that's who she is. She was upset and completely almost rude to the person cutting her hair because, quote unquote, she wasn't happy about the haircut she got the last time she was in there, which I'm sure that person probably didn't even cut her hair. She then pinged that to be, oh, and by the way, my husband's also upset. He didn't like his haircut last time. She was then offended, and this is true, she was then offended and went on a little 3-minute rant about how the mailman hadn't picked up her mail in 2 days, and that her family is too busy in their lives to have any time for grandma. They never even call her anymore. And I'm sitting there listening to this while thinking to myself, wow, what a negative person. Boy, I feel sorry for her, her husband, and her family. And at that moment, as I'm sitting there, a man walks in. He's an older man, and he sits down next to me, and that was the husband. That was her husband. And then he proceeds to, the lady that was cutting the lady's hair, the stylist interacted with him, recognized him as the husband, and said hi to him. And so that started the dialogue between the two. And guess what? He proceeds to basically start complaining about, wait for it, his family not calling him anymore, the haircut he's unhappy about his last visit, and how, quote unquote, un-American it was that the mailman had not been picking up their mail for the last 2 days. In almost every one of those counterpoints, or those bulletin points he made, he turned around and looked directly at me, and I could feel him looking at me, though I continued to look down at my cell phone. And I never once looked up to make eye contact. And I kind of was choosing in that moment. I was smiling the whole time. They knew I was listening to them. But I didn't look up and acknowledge anything that he had said. I didn't look him in the eye and nod my head. Yeah, that's un-American for them not to
Not upvoting.
Well, yes. There was no upvotes given.
Imagine if we could help curate the world a little bit better.
Well, you know what? I did. I felt like I was in some way. And just to tie this back into Steemit here in this point, that's how we were doing that, by curating other people's work and trying to promote that good stuff. So what I did in that moment, just to be as much of a good person as I could, is I didn't engage in it. I didn't give him any acknowledgement that what he was saying was right or wrong. I continued to smile the whole time, and I was choosing, my awareness of my environment was basically giving me the option to choose to be not that negativity, to be something else. And they left together when their haircut was complete, and I thought to myself they were a match made in heaven. But then I later asked myself, how did they get that way? Going back to the way Craig put it, how did they program themselves to have those belief systems or to manage those belief systems in a way that was the best experience they could get out of life? And how many years have they been together just programming each other that that's the way the world is and that's the way they should react to it, basing off of what's wrong with the world and feeding off that to reinforce that belief system? And to answer my own question, I would assume that they've been doing that most of their lives. and never once asked what Craig asked, which is, how do I reprogram myself to manage my beliefs better and have a better experience?
Well, and that actually kind of connects a little bit to that, show the love to a unfound post sort of thing. Because part of the underlying in that is you've got kind of that emotional, there's something wrong, and that's kind of what's getting that feedback in that couple there. Team Leibniz put out a post a couple days ago of lessons learned from the classroom. No one ever wins in an argument. Why? You are being too limbic.
And I'm sorry, what was that username again?
Team Leibniz.
Oh yeah, he's cool as hell.
Yeah.
I've seen him in the chat room quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And there's actually a couple points I want to make about that. And I totally understand your gifted guy, your standpoint of just kind of hanging back and listening to them talk and getting that whole story from both of them individually.
Yeah, how often do you hear the same story from both sides?
Well, they're a husband and wife. How old did you say you think they were?
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty bad at guessing ages, but I'm looking at probably early 70s.
Okay. So they've probably been together for quite a while now. And granted, this is totally like third person story, so it's not really something that I'm not going to claim I know these people well enough to be able to make any sort of judgment. But at the same time, whenever I hear that kind of negativity happening around me, I just sort of I've gotten to a point now where I've just sort of like considered it to be background noise. But at the same time, I consider it to be background noise in my life. I also think to myself, these people are 70 years old. I don't know what they've been through. I don't know. I mean, after about, if they're 70, assuming they got married when they were 20, they've been together for 50 years. They're basically the same person, So,
yeah.
Well, and I mean, kind of the underlying point that I was going to get into there is just that the whole concept he got into in that article is going limbic. And it's basically when you're in that emotional state where you're just kind of riled up on one thing or another.
Right.
And when that's occurring, you're basically not thinking logically.
No.
And that's kind of the whole point in his article there is if someone's sitting there vehemently arguing against you or being emotional, there's really nothing you can say short of trying to calm them down through various methods, like take their mind off of it or something else. But yeah, if you're stuck in that state and there's just not much that's going to happen until you just run out.
So if you're stuck in that state, and we're discussing building mindsets based on your environment, those people, like you referenced, Winston, are the same person. How do you better manage those results was Craig's question. And I'm trying to tie that back into the Steemit community and in general building a new social media platform. And so I'm trying to think of how to say this. Well, you know what? I'll ask the listeners if there's anybody listening in the interest of following Craig's model and asking ourselves good questions. What do you want Steemit to be? What is the point of this? What do we believe? What do we know? And what is this? What do we want this to be? And I don't necessarily need any feedback from my friends in the room here. That's a question to the community.
I'll step back a step there, and I agree with the question, and I will probably answer it on my own, given some time to really chew on that. I don't want a snap decision to that. I want to really think about that, because it is an important question. It's a question that GAT already brought up as well, which is, what do we want it to be? Where is it going to go? But to go back, I mean, you raise a really interesting question, which is, why is it so much easier, and I'm sure this has been answered by some great philosopher or psychologist somewhere, and maybe you know Psycho Chico, but for me, it just makes me wonder, why is it so much easier to unify on a negative thought than a positive one? Like, you ask, how do we build a good audience? How do we build a good community? But we have to unify behind something good. But why is it so much easier to unify against something bad?
It is easier, and I think that asking Psycho Chica is the perfect person to ask in your background in philosophy and physics and all of that.
Can I say one thing? Sorry.
Yeah. Go.
Oh yeah.
GAT.
It's easier to not care than to care. About really. I mean, because when you're negative, you do not care.
That's a good point.
When you are positive, you care.
Well, and my best explanation here is think about we've all kind of had those questions and self-analysis of, who am I? What do I want? And when you're doing that, you're kind of running through a bunch of things, trying to figure, you're like, no, until you finally get that yes. The yes is just absolutely profound.
That yes feels so good.
But think of how many millions of no's that you have to go through to get there. The reason that it's so much easier to go around a negative is because it's easier. It's hard to find those yeses.
That's fair. That's very fair.
Well, and what's really interesting, too, is that Gary was just talking about it's easier not to care than it is to care. That if we were to take that more to a fundamental level, I mean, that actually takes me back to something that I'm sure I'm going to be raising a whole lot of flags for people who know this gentleman's name, Alan Watts. Whenever he's actually, he was talking about how interesting it is that anything even is at all. It would be so much easier
for nothing
to be than to exist at all.
I definitely mentioned how easy it is to do nothing in one of my previous posts, because it is the default state.
Well, and I think you just described my weekends. Well, I mean, and the question was to the
Wait, your
Steemit
weekends
listeners.
before Steemit?
Something to do with the words fresh and mode. I'm not really sure.
With Steemit, I find myself feeling like I'm learning when I go there. I'm not just scrolling, waiting, like we talked about, waiting for that right thing to hit, and the yes that feels so good. Yes, there's a good article. I don't have to do that with Steemit. It's there. I just have to get on there. And the question to the community was, what do we want this to be? So again, I'd love to hear some comments on that, or see some comments.
I'd love to see some full blog posts, because then we can upvote it and comment on it and curate it, and it will become the thing that now I don't know here. I just blew my own mind. Sorry.
I actually just saw Steemit QA earlier put up a post of if he would donate $1 Steam to the winner of answering this question.
Oh,
what
great.
is Steemit to you? What do you think it should become?
Well, there it is. Steemit already saw
that
this
guy
one.
is cool, by the way. He's in the chat quite a lot.
So do we become the least common denominator, and how do we stop that? Because the least common denominator, and please don't go too far with this, guys, but is the result of this year's election system, I feel, is the least common denominator, and how do we keep Steemit from being that?
Well, and as far as the least common denominator goes, I mean, that actually references something I was going to talk about, and that's a post that I saw here within the last week, I believe, and it was Introduce Yourself, and it was Introduce Yourself post from a Playboy Playmate, and her name was Brenda, I think it was Zambrano. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so from here on out, it's Brenda. And Brenda, that's my mother's name. That's a lovely name. So I saw that post listed this week, and it garnished 680 upvotes. It netted a payout worth, I think, $11,000, almost $500.
Some incredible amount.
In 2 days. And so I'm not personally opposed to beautiful women. I'm not opposed to that person's lifestyle or the content that she shared. The post wasn't bad in any regard whatsoever. But it did leave me wondering, specifically what we were talking about, what do we want Steemit to be, what its effect was on the Steemit community. And I say that because since I saw that post there, I saw several other posts, comments, and people that were community members that were not necessarily offended by the content, but offended by the success and the reward. And so I was wondering, even some of those posts were mocking, where they'd photoshopped kind of her cover but their face, and some of them I saw actually had some success.
Well, and then everybody tries to parody it as fast as possible.
So, and just to finish my point there, I mean, is those people felt to me like they were expressing frustration that their posts that they were making were, they contained original artwork, heartfelt, thoughtful insights, music that they had created, photography they had taken, whatever the context, those posts garnished no attention or reward. And then here comes this person that essentially puts a Playboy spread up and minus the nudity, and then boom, $12,000.
Well, and I mean, that's where I think a lot of users don't always understand where the other side is coming from there. Of kind of like we mentioned earlier, just because you're not getting upvotes, it's not that they don't like it, they might not be seeing it. But on the flip side, there's motivation for, I mean, you basically have to have a bunch of whales that are putting all of that money together to generate that kind of output on a single post. There's motivation behind it as well, of if you have that in the marketing sense of, hey, we just brought this person in and she just made $15,000 in 2 days and she has a mass market of people that's going to flood to.
Yep.
It's not a matter of liking what it is. It's a matter of liking what it could do
Media.
from their standpoint.
Get that mass media in there.
Absolutely.
I feel bad for agreeing with that, but it's an immensely good point. I just want to add too, like, there's been a lot of discussions on the whole, like, female attractiveness or even male attractiveness in how that brings people to your blog. And I made a few comments on this, which is that Steemit's still built upon the fundamental foundations of human psychology and interaction. And I don't know how many times we have to prove that sex sells. We've all known that.
Well, and I did notice that she had referenced in her post that she had 1.5 million followers, and so you're right. There is that exposure.
It also takes money to make money.
That's
Like,
a good point.
if Elon Musk joined Steemit, would we want to see his post garner 2 cents?
I
No,
probably
of course
would
not.
upvote
But
those
at the
posts.
same time,
Right.
would Elon Musk even join Steemit? Because the guy, I mean, okay, wait.
Elon Musk, would you like to join Steemit?
Hashtag Elon Musk.
Hashtag Elon Musk. Hashtag
He would be
Steemit.
the first person to break $100,000. Now, having said that, at the same time, $100,000 to Elon Musk would be pocket change.
Sure, but $12,000 to you or me would be nice.
Exactly. So, I mean, if the guy actually did it, it would be out of the kindness of his own heart. And I have to admit, I don't even know if he would be even hanging on to it. He would be like, I'm already doing
There's
so
a
much
question,
right now.
though. Like, any famous person that joins is basically an Insta whale, right?
Yeah, of course.
So then they garner, like, there's a weird question about like economical war, where we're like insta whaling people to then that we'll then pander to. And like the whole point of like economic warfare is like for the lower masses to rise up and take that power, but yet we're willing to give all of it to them.
Hashtag InstaWhale.
There we go.
Hashtag insta whale. Wow.
So, well, I mean, and let's bring it. I'm still back on Craig's thing here because such insightful questioning has produced all this conversation, and that's out of his Being Light video. He was asking, you know, as far as belief and to know. So my question is, what does Steemit believe? Apparently, based on the results of that person's post and the reward it garnished, this apparently is a community of people that believe that a posting member should be rewarded for essentially amounts to being pretty, and I've got a lot of people I could bring with me. Or is this a community of people who will reward each other for intelligent conversation and original artistic expression? And I mean, I'm still very much a noob here, but I mean, the Playmate post on the surface looks very much to me to be very Facebook-esque.
Very canned.
And at the same time, that's what happened. That's the results that it got. So the question answered itself. That's obviously something the Steemit community wants to see.
Well, and okay, having said all this, you have to wonder. Now, in order to get a lot of earnings off of any particular post, by and large, most people around here tend to believe that you have to have an upvote rather, from somebody who is either a whale or somebody who has enough influence to be considered a whale. And having said that, most of the biggest players in this community are the people who actually built the community from the ground up. This place is their baby. They're not going to destroy it. And they're going to do whatever is in the best interest of their business model.
So I want to bring back to something here real quick, though, which could be an interesting thing to kind of look at, which is like, we talked about like, what has Steemit caused you to do? Well, what if Steemit causes us all to work out more so that we can show off our abs and we can show off our swimsuits and we can show off our tans?
It's force extracting creativity out of the people
not
who are
only
in
force
it.
extracting creativity, it's force extracting, I think, raw determination. Okay, well, I'm going to go work out my abs, and I'm going to take a picture of me in my swim trunks, and I'm going to talk about how, and then I'm going to write a blog post about my story of me being somebody who doesn't have abs, and now I'm somebody that has abs, and I like science, and I do everything, building upon this. Suddenly I'm determined to be human. I care about being a human.
Think about
think
the
we should
Pokemon
care to be
eggs you would
human.
hatch in the meantime
Right,
of
I would
walking.
hatch all of my eggs.
Well, and it's going to become whatever it's meant to become. And apparently that one surprised me. Again, I can't stress enough. I'm not opposed to that content, to that post, to what I read in that post. I didn't think it was offensive in any regard. I was just surprised about the reward coming back to it. And so Steemit's going to be whatever it's going to be. But we've already asked the community members what we want, what they want it to be, or what they think it's going to become. I just suggest that we proceed with Craig's line of questioning and ask the listeners and ask ourselves, how do we reprogram ourselves in this online platform environment to manage this community to produce the results that we want to have?
This is from an outsider perspective, but I kind of hate the term insta-whale. I think this is just, okay. It's kind of, when you have somebody famous and they're instantly a whale, I'm sorry, but that makes it like every other social networking site.
Well, I think
why wouldn't they have to work as hard as the next person to get their name out there?
I think it's because they've already done that work.
Exactly.
They've gotten their name out there.
There is a number
different
we've
place.
mentioned today, which is approximately 50,000, which if you compare to other networks which have several 100 million or
billion.
a billion people.
Billion
right
with a
now,
B.
their main concern is to populate the place. So to bring in a couple of celebrities would be genius because they're going to bring in tons of people.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, that's a good thing, but
I get what you're going
what
for.
I'm saying is
There's the potential for problems by having these brand new people that come in with that.
They haven't worked for it.
Well,
that's
we've-
what I'm saying.
we've
You
worked
have
for
all
it.
worked for it. And another
Right.
thing I wanted to say,
But we could pay.
is
We could
that's
put money in
kind of
ourselves if
the
that's what we
culture-
wanted.
Oh, sorry. The culture of Steemit, the way the culture is a reason why I would be interested in joining
Sure.
the social media
Well,
sites.
Okay.
This is the
I
first
think
time.
Winston referenced is small, and I think that's a big thing that's in play here. So a big fish comes in a small pond, there's going to make waves. Second of all, as QA mentioned, they have already put in the work. They walk in with a name, whereas I walk into a room and nobody knows who I am. And I understand what you're saying, Gat, as far as you feel it should be an evil level
This
play.
is outsider perspective.
Well,
so-
no, it's
No,
your
it's
perspective
perfect.
matters, yes, and it should be a level playing field. Everybody should have to pay their dues and come in.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's just another thing that represents how Steemit is more like real life than, let's say, a Facebook or a Reddit or any of the others, in that these people come in and they are the celebrity because it is such a small environment versus whoever is the new startup artist today that just hit #1 for the first time makes a Facebook page. How many other Facebook pages are on there?
And I mean, if it was like an Elon Musk, I mean, that wouldn't bother me at all because of what he's done. But I'm talking about another celebrity who hasn't done anything, but they're famous. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's kind of like that. That's just what I wanted to say.
Well, no, I think you make a valid point.
Well, and
I feel like, I mean, not to interrupt, I feel like, again, we just need to be asking ourselves, how do we reprogram ourselves to get the results that we want out of this experiment?
I definitely, I tried to push something today, which is like, I think that a lot of people are of a couple of, and there's probably a few camps. I know there was, I wish I would have targeted that post. Did anybody else read the post
What
about
was
the
it
guy
about?
of the different types of Steemit users all done as South Park characters?
oh my God, I
That's
need to
funny.
see this.
Condra, I think.
Who? Condra?
I think.
It was
Condra is a great user,
It was
by the way.
a really good post. We'll try to pull that one up for links in the description. It was a good post. I think it
Always
missed a
got
few
good
of the
content.
users, but so one of the things that it kind of brought to light for me was like, there, at least when I was looking at it, and in some of the conversations and the interactions that I've had, the interactions more so than the conversations, is that some people are too stingy to vote. Like, they feel like their upvote is so, I can only upvote once a day, and so I find one good thing and I upvote it, and I stay at 100% voting power.
Hey, that's me. Fuck you.
And then, I don't want to ding myself too much. Oh, so who are you in the Steemit economy? Sorry, by Condry. Yes, no, this is the post, and it is a really good post.
What is it called again?
It is who are you in the Steemit economy? This was 2 weeks ago. I just found this post while I was at lunch at work this last week, and it has a bunch of really fun South Park characters as all of the different personalities of a Steemit user.
Yeah.
But to my point, some people are too stingy with their vote. They feel like it's so powerful and they don't want to waste it or whatever. For whatever reason, they withhold their vote. And I don't want to updoot my own horn too much, but I did write a post that just kind of touched on we make this community what it is by our actions. Our actions speak louder than words, and our actions are our upvotes. If you comment something and you say, thanks, good post, you're not really giving a whole lot. But if you comment, if you comment something that should be a post all in itself, which is a whole nother topic, but if that post isn't upvoted by the user who is, if the user asks for a question like, hey, what did you guys think? And you provide your heartfelt thoughts and you provide a big post, upvote that post. If you are a user reading that post, upvote that post, because that's the kind of engagement that the person asked for in the first place. And if they asked for it and you gave it to them, then you deserve at least a penny for your time.
Sure. Or more.
Well, yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's interesting you talk about essentially speech through vote.
Yeah.
And I have to admit...
democracy! How dare you!
Well, no. Think about this, and I've actually mentioned this to somebody in the Steemit.chat before, and it seemed to make Firepower seemed to really resonate with this too. But the whales tend to speak to us through their vote. If you've noticed, they don't make very many posts to begin with. Yeah, absolutely. They don't. Okay,
that's what an upvote sounds like. Just so you know.
Is that what's happening here? I was so confused.
But no, really, think about this. This is their baby. This is the thing that they are running right now that is actually working. People are coming. People are actually joining in on this thing. We're getting tons of people flooding in every day. We're just a hair below 50,000 so far. And as of July 4th, we're just a little over a month away from whenever they really had like the big wahoo.
Explosion.
Yeah, exactly. And a whole bunch of people came in, so we're just at about 50,000. But the what they want to happen with their site is only really spoken through with what they're upvoting. You see what I'm saying? Because what they're wanting to really kind of continue with.
No. I get where you're going with here. Like, and there's a second part of that, which is something that I kind of thought about earlier, and I meant to mention. Like, there's a huge piece of this, which is that it is open source. Like, they're asking for the best of the best to donate their time. This is an open source platform. This is not a closed corporation LLC, that is putting it out on the open market. This is for the people, by the people.
Right. Well, and people used to think that they were perverts because all that they would vote on was anything that had boobs.
Well, boobs are great.
Boobs are great. Boobs draw people. That's exactly what they're trying to do.
$12,000 boobs.
Well, and, I mean, just kind of going back to the South Park character post of types of people there, there's some of the bigger whales that are more curators, as far as just kind of how I've seen, like, you actually see them trying to find good, interesting content to upvote.
Sure.
There's others that, it's a, I'm running the company or I'm looking for the best of the community, so I vote another way. It's not necessarily the same as a curator vote, in the same sense of, is my art or creation good?
I completely agree with you. In fact, there was an argument about whether or not people who, posted the most simple things and just had boobs were actually, making the trending page and making $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 and $6,000 and $7,000. But I have to interject that if what we're going to go by is what the whales vote on, they vote on cool shit. I mean, there's really no other way around it, because you've got, on one hand, somebody talking about how they talked to 1 million people on their Facebook page talking about how they made $12,000 and $13,000, and on the other hand, you've also got Anka 3D. I can't even remember her name now. I'm so sorry for not being able to remember your name. I will tag you properly in our post whenever I do this. You're the one who did the wood burning art on the steamed robots and made like $3,000. That is
she
amazing.
Made you into a robot, right?
Yes.
And I'm just gonna have to make you feel bad here. She wood burned you as a robot. And
she
you don't
burned
remember.
Me.
She like ingrained into physical form an archetype of you as a machination, as an automaton, and what's her name?
Well, it's one of those things.
We're going to tag her. I feel terrible because I can't remember using it.
We're not only going to tag her, we're going to get her name.
We're going to get her name, and at the same time, I have to admit, she deserves every cent of that money.
No joke. No, I definitely looked at, and it's just like, that's that kind of fun, on-the-fly sort of artwork that definitely that's the kind of real person. It's not necessarily a Picasso, but it's
creative.
It's creative.
It's very creative.
It's on the fly.
It's straight up cool.
And she's
it's
not
the definition of cool.
She's not seen any pictures of you, has she?
I don't. Well,
there's
probably.
there's
I've
a little
posted
bit of
stuff on there.
semblance.
Well,
there.
maybe. I look like the robot that I am. No, her name is Anka 3D Random, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But we'll get her tagged on here. And yeah, I mean, she's already everybody who's listening to this knows who I'm talking about.
Right.
I don't. And
She's,
I don't.
You need to go look up
Well,
what's her name.
well, that's the whole point of this damn podcast.
That's true. No, I will. So I'm gonna have to say, like, even in our small, like, 4/5 person chat room that we have going,
Sure.
like, on the side, I've been under content overload. I have not read so much in I read short novels, I read some sci-fi, I check a few posts, maybe my Facebook here and there. I don't engorge in content unless it's like 3:00 in the morning and I'm on a conspiracy website. That's when I gorge content.
Those are the best.
But
Those are the best.
that's an amazing time to do it when you get super paranoid about being abducted before you go to bed. That's a great thing to do before you go to sleep. But I have been on nonstop content saturation, and my sponge is overflowing, I gotta say.
well, I mean, at the same time, when have you ever had a better opportunity?
Oh no, it's great, and I think that it's not only great, like, as a curator. I'm a minnow, and I'm just here doing what I do. I'm posting some of my art. I'm making some art. I'm working on some side projects, getting ready to write some blogs. But I'm also like, it feels good. Like when I watch a TED Talk, I can comment on a TED Talk, and that doesn't really do anything. Like, there's not a lot of people that actually engage in the discussion under the talks
Right.
of like TED Talks. Like, we're talking huge, mega, like, bleeding edge of science conversations.
You
or
can
psychology,
listen,
whatever.
but you can't
You can
interact.
listen, but you can't interact. And even in the conversation underneath it, there's maybe 3 people. And we're talking 3 people out of a conference that had 5,000 people in a stadium.
Yeah.
And I can go find somebody who's talking just as deep a stuff, who's, got comments and engaging conversation, and when I upvote them, I mean, I may not be directly paying them, it's not coming out of my wallet, but I'm at least giving them that chance.
You're giving them your time.
I'm giving them my time, and my comments can reap rewards as well.
You're helping create that platform that gives them
Exactly.
that spotlight.
There's a
that
reason
they deserve.
TED Talks
they
are
deserve it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason TED Talks are popular.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to mention real quick, in the community, you have these professionals, you have this interaction. So if you have a problem, if you run into something that you don't understand, just ask.
Yep.
Hop in a Steam chat, pop up a reply to somebody and say, can you help me understand? Can you show me how to do this?
We haven't talked enough about how much you should use Steam Chat. Not only is it really, like, new and fresh and like AOL from the 90s, but no, it's really useful. Like, go there. If you are posting, if you are curating, if you're upvoting, if you're on Steemit, get on Steemit Chat. Like,
Just
but don't at all, and don't use the same password.
Don't at all. That is the biggest thing.
Don't use the same password. It is not directed through Steemit. Use a different password so that you're not keeping your stuff at risk.
Yes. That's real money on there, apparently.
Right. No, your Steemit account is a bank account. Not only that, but, like, keep in mind, Steemit may not, Steam may not seem like it's worth a lot right now, but Bitcoin wasn't worth anything when it came out, and it's worth a buttload now.
Yeah. I believe Pied Piper, and he's actually got speaking of which, Pied Piper, you have an amazing set of videos that every newbie really needs to dig through.
God.
That guy's got some amazing
It should be like
photos.
mandatory viewing.
Yeah, absolutely. Mandatory. As soon as you sign in, first of all, the first thing you need to read is the white paper, and the very next thing you need is to listen and watch Pied Piper's videos. They're absolutely amazing. But he pointed out that the very first Bitcoin transaction was a pizza for 10,000 Bitcoins. And right now, what is it? 1 Bitcoin is hovering somewhere around $600 US.
600-ish.
Huh.
Yeah, it fluctuates.
So you gave us your thing that you saw that
Yep.
I missed, and I'm glad I heard that. And
I'm super glad. I'm definitely like waiting for the link on yours so that I can go digest that later because I want to get in on his.
Yeah.
That sounds like an amazing video. It makes me think of there's a whole music curation series that I saw. It's totally not even Steemit related, but there was this collective consciousness music series that I wanted. Now I've got to like go try and get in touch with the author of.
Well, and as enthralling as that video was that I was referencing and pulling all those questions, and again, that's only the first 5 minutes of that video. I didn't talk about the last 15.
That's why I've got to go find this now.
But what cued that to me was the music video, and again, the lyrics in the hip hop song were exactly that caliber. And
so if you don't mind my asking, just because generally I'm like. I like weird hip hop. So like, did you get a nationality from him? Like,
I believe Jamaican.
Okay,
that's
cool.
I hope that I'm not saying that wrong.
Or at least a Jamaican style.
Well,
maybe?
no, it wasn't even necessarily a style. It was some of the other blog posts I saw there. No, honestly, that could be a vacation to Jamaica. I wasn't there with the gentleman.
I got really big into European hip hop for a while. I've never been into like American like rap or hip hop or anything, but I got into like Swedish and UK and stuff like that, and like. That's the kind of hip hop that I kind of.
I try not to label it by location as much as what's being said. I like smart hip hop. I don't care where it's from.
And that I guess and that of course is an individual distinction. I wouldn't call something hip hop if it didn't have the 5 elements and it wasn't intelligent.
sure.
I mean.
There's got to be some breakdancing.
Yeah, there's got to be some breakdancing. You got
a little bit of graffiti. There we go.
So. No, like Scroobius Pip and Dan LaShock. I really like as UK hip hop. But anyway.
Well, it caught my attention, and then it led to this whole other conversation.
No, that's amazing.
I feel that I ranted quite a bit there as far as how that affected me. And again, thank you, Steemit, for providing that to me, and for Craig himself. I will tag you, and I hope you hear us and see this.
I would like to extend this question because I feel like we're still behind a little bit. Psycho Chica, how has Steemit changed your life in the last couple of weeks?
No, we brought that up. But absolutely. So I don't think we went around the room, though.
Yeah,
I think
I want to really chimed in on that.
I don't think she chimed in.
Okay, there we go.
I mean, the big thing is, one, I basically had the writing bug come back. I've been pretty much up until today, I've been kind of popping out 1, 2, sometimes a few things a day. And most of them are a little more in depth. But it just kind of getting that engagement back in general. Again, without going too far down the utopia rabbit hole, to me, beyond the kind of, personal just motivation and writing bug and stuff like that, I'm curious to see where this is going to go. I mean, when you start tying together the ability of, one, now, intellectual ideas and originality being able to be compensated, there's no middlemen, there's, people like what they like. You then scale that up to something, say, like a marketplace for digital goods or physical goods.
And you tie it into Amazon.
Right, but when you put that under the Steemit platform, again, in that, making things a better model of a world in the long term, it can scale into very interesting ways there.
So if you don't mind my asking, how often did you write before this?
God, it goes back at least...
frequency. Frequency. Like,
I'm saying 10 years that I took off.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, wow. I probably still tried to write... If I had to average it maybe once every 3 months, I would do like a week where I would write, and then I would take off 6 or 8 months.
I just did what I called ranting instead. Think of it like a slightly more emphatic personal history.
I at least maintained. Did you maintain a journal at all? Like, I'm not even saying public writing. I'm saying, how often did you sit down and make content?
Again, 10-year break.
Wow.
Everything outside
That's
of
incredible.
that was in my own
how
head.
often are you making content now?
2-3 times a day.
A day?
At least 2 that
not
are usually
even
quality.
Not even daily, but multiple times a day.
I can knock a lot of my stuff out in an hour and
That's
then just
amazing.
do some proofreading.
That actually reminds me of something. There was recently an exchange between George R.R. Martin and Stephen King, and George R.R. Martin actually asked Stephen King, so how is it that you're able to come out with 6 books at the same time I'm able to come out with 6 chapters? And I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but at the same time, Stephen King, the answer he gave just absolutely blew me away. He's like, I demand of myself 6 pages per day. Absolutely 6 pages per day.
and I know Gat's got a point here, so I'm gonna let him make your point first, Gat. This is something that I've been. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Well, mine's short and
excited.
sweet. Basically, you were asking how has Steam changed you, and I'm not even on it, but it's changed me in the fact that I never thought I would ever want to join a social media site.
And this is coming from somebody who doesn't have any association with any social media site
Would
whatsoever.
you say that you are vehemently against Facebook?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And
I am now.
Yeah, now I'm getting there really quick.
But what I've heard about Steemit is just so different from all the other social media sites. That's how it's changed me, and I'm not even on it.
The key word is incentive.
Well, and I would beg to differ. I would say that it's less incentive because I'm not there to make money.
Yeah, it's
I'm really not. I'm actually more enticed by the fact that people are real people.
Yeah.
And by that I have
the culture.
It's
the
still
I
an
would say
incentive.
it is an incentive.
It's just not monetary.
I guess, well, yeah, I'm not there for the monetary incentive as much as I am for the, like, opportunity to be myself. I feel like I've not been able to be myself as much as I am on there.
Well,
But, and just real quick, I want to bring up, I read it years ago, and it's one of those things that have really started to highlight as far as my use of Steemit is Ray Bradbury, author of Fahrenheit 451, wrote Zen and the Art of Writing.
Sure.
In which, of course, like Zen and the Art of any other books, it basically boils down to you do it every day, you do it no matter fucking what, you do it whether you fucking hate it, you force yourself to do it, you write one word on a page, and that is, if that's the only word you write that day, you write every single day.
Oh, yeah.
And you do it, and you get there, and that's raw determination. And I'm not yet to one word a day. I'm getting there, but I'm definitely determined to be there, and I can see the appreciation for that sort of drive, and I can see the results that sort of drive can get to.
Well, and it's interesting to me because I feel like Steemit provides you the platform to get there,
Right.
and the incentive.
The incentive's a plus.
And I mean, based on my own personal experience, my chosen social media platform prior to this was probably Facebook. And for my page, I feel like my page is unique in the wash of all the other pages. And I've tried to make it something unique. I've actually put hundreds of hours upon my life trying to make that a place of positive things where somebody comes to my wall, they might leave laughing, they might leave inspired. Hopefully they leave with some insight based on some comment that I've made or thought that fell out of my head.
If anything else, I'm definitely genuinely interested in your Facebook page, whereas most other posts, I just kind of scroll.
Well, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm specifically making the point that on Facebook, I feel like I'm playing that role. Like I'm actively trying to be that person in a sea of people, or not necessarily people, but a sea of other pages that are not that way.
You've definitely done your work to be unique, and I would have to say one platform that we haven't brought up, which is one that I started navigating to a few months back. I started abandoning Facebook before I knew about Steemit, and I started giving it up for Imgur.
Yeah.
I started frequenting Imgur a lot more often. I started upvoting people and engaging with the community there, being more open in comments.
Well, let me interrupt you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
go
I just
for
had
it.
one sentence to finish my point, and I've never been on Imgur, so I actually want you to continue with that just to hear your side of that. But to me, that's what my Facebook page is, and I feel like on Steemit, I'm not that guy. I'm one of many of those guys, and that's kind of an interesting feeling because, again, for the last several years, I felt like that's not the case. My Facebook page had to be something else, and I walk on Steemit, and I don't have to be that guy. I just have to get on there and just read everybody else playing that role for me.
I'm actually gonna transition real quick, and we can go back. But I just recently had a friend move to Colorado, and somebody who's very anti-disestablishmentary, very out of the cut cloth for this area. And
Hashtag anarchy thread.
Right, yeah. He moved to Colorado, and I talked with him briefly recently, and the fact that he was original and a diamond in the rough in this area, but in Colorado he's just another guy because everybody agrees with him.
Sure.
and it's one of those things where, like, moving to Steemit, I feel like we are the rough and tumble anarchistic people of Facebook, but now everybody is kind of all the same.
And that's comforting, isn't it?
It to an extent, but it makes it also harder to define yourself.
Well, it's that, competitive challenge, or constructive challenge is the phrase I'm looking for. Of now that in Facebook, you were basically the curator. You were the one, Jason, or Gifted Guy went through, and
no, it's okay. People know me as Jason.
Yeah,
found those the diamonds in the rough as far as what's worth actually posting, and then coming over to Steemit, where now essentially that's what everyone's doing, either self curating or others, but yeah, once you get to that point, you're now all of a sudden kind of have to take that next step of, I think Brett QA hit on this earlier. So now what how do I find myself? What do I show off with?
I just wanted to say one thing.
GAT.
One of the other things that I like about Steemit is that if first you don't succeed, you try again, because it started out so slow for, I think, a lot of people that I am around.
Still slow.
And after a while, it just builds, and it keeps building.
That's okay to be slow. There's good content there.
That's what's so great about it.
Well, and another thing to consider, too, and this is something I've actually experienced myself personally, too. Whenever I first joined here 3 weeks ago, there weren't nearly as many people as there are now. And I actually went through and I posted a whole bunch of my stuff. Of course, everybody kind of digs into their archive of their best stuff, and they go to post it. And there have been a couple of times when 3 weeks ago, whenever I post something, it didn't get a whole lot of attention. And then this last week, I went ahead and decided, you know what, I'm going to post this stuff again. There's new people here. There's no reason for me not to be. And I have to admit, there are a couple of posts. One of them happens to be what if you happen to search through my blog, you'll find something called a Riverside Proposal Portrait Session. That thing got it. Now, granted, it didn't get a whole lot more than just a couple of dollars of Steam dollars, but at the same time, it did way better the second time I posted it than the first time that I did.
So maybe you're gonna have to and I don't know how we haven't gotten to this point yet. I mean, I guess I would have to say that there is something to be said for all of us here, and that none of us are really selfish people. All of us have had kind of a hard time saying I did some stuff, but we're trying to make a music video, and we haven't talked about that yet.
No, we haven't.
Wow.
That's not even on the agenda.
No, yes, it is on the agenda.
Okay,
absolutely. We are currently this crew of 4 people, the 4 main players here. We've got Quantum Anomaly, we've got Psycho Chica, we've got Gifted Guy, and of course myself, Winston Wolf. I solve problems. We do have a music video submission program going on right now, where if you submit your video, what we're doing is we're asking you to come up with the most creative shot that you possibly can think of while singing in actual sync the lyrics to Daft Punk's Get Lucky.
Get your karaoke on.
And that's I just want to clarify, that's a lip sync.
That is a lip. No, it's a karaoke.
No, karaoke.
So, I see.
Karaoke.
No.
We want your voice.
We want your karaoke. That's what
Right.
keeps it copyright friendly, as if we're
Right.
doing a karaoke.
I love
You're
that
gonna
song.
have to sing.
Well,
You're gonna have to sing.
You can borrow my mic.
Oh, I'll sing my little heart out.
Okay, all right. You've got to sing. If you don't sing, it doesn't count. We don't want you.
But you can sing with a Darth Vader voice synthesizer. You can.
Lord
sing.
Vader, you know who we're talking
Right,
about.
right. You can do. I mean, we would prefer if you don't adjust your audio a whole lot, because we have a lot of talented folks that are able to handle that for you. But
okay, wear headphones if you have to. We don't want the original lyrics.
Definitely
in there.
don't want the original lyrics.
Right.
We want to hear from you, Steemit community.
Exactly. Only you. We don't want to hear any of the original music. We've got that taken care of. All we want to hear is your voice. If you've got a camera on your phone, you qualify to be able to get into this video. And we're going to split 50% of the earnings with anybody who ends up in the video. And the rest of the 50% basically goes to helping fund us do exactly what you're listening to right now.
I'm excited for this because I'm a musician, and this was not my idea. Of course, the Get Lucky song, that kind of parodies to, you might put a very interesting post up one day and not expect it to do well, and
It's
boom,
a
it did
slot
really well.
machine.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't say I haven't woken up and seen something that was suddenly earned so much more than I ever expected it to.
Well, and every night I go to sleep hoping that that's going to be me in the morning. That instead of somebody else's post, that I'm going to go to bed, I'm going to upvote my post, I'm going to, comment on whoever's commented on it, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to have $1,000 waiting for me.
Well, and they launched the Steemian Food Network earlier this week.
Steemian Food Network.
Steemian Food Network. It's a hashtag Steemian Food Network, and it's recipes, things like that.
Username @Cryptic has actually talked to me about this, and I want to tag him in the post here.
And
Please
my
tell me
point
they
out
have
of all
bacon.
this is Renee
Bacon.
Nouveau kind of had that trending first thing on there that was like a meatless burger that she keeps showing me the picture, and I'm hungry every time. So she finally posted it. So outside of that, I'm not getting as hungry.
What user was that? I'm sorry.
Renee Nouveau.
Renee Nouveau.
Yeah.
And in the chat room, she goes as
I'm not sure on there, but that's okay. That's okay.
Illuminati.
Oh, it's okay. So that's Illuminati.
But
So, I'm
basically,
sorry.
Yeah, they launched the Steemian Food Network earlier this
Yes.
week. She was kind of that first trending post on there with her veggie. It's like a meatless burger that looks just phenomenal.
It looks
Yum.
amazing.
But yeah, I mean, it trended up to like $300, $350.
It deserves more than that.
Oh,
and
God,
I'm a
it's
meat
good.
eater. I'm not even a vegetarian.
But I mean, it's again just those sort of ideas of if you were to have been asked, would this burger and recipe trend up here? You never know. Some of it's timing, some of it's actually a little bit of strategy. But outside of that, you never know. Like Quantum Anomaly said, it's very much a slot machine in that sense.
It really is.
I want burgers and bacon now.
We mentioned bacon in the last one, and I don't see there's a reason why we shouldn't have mentioned at least bacon once every single episode. You're going to hear about
I'm just going to
bacon.
go ahead and give you guys all a spoiler alert. If I'm part of this scenario, we might be talking about bacon. I'm sorry for that. It's just
Coming soon to a mouth near you.
very happy you did that.
Bacon!
We've discussed quantum anomalies, the random found thing on Steemit, and then we've discussed mine.
Yeah.
And then have we gotten around the circle yet? I'm sorry, guys. Did Winston Wolfe or Psycho Chica have anything that they discovered this week that was just kind of blow your mind? You need to talk about it so people don't miss it.
Who was the person who talked about how he had he was a pianist and he had a whole bunch of stuff, and I guess there was a thing where he had like a whole bunch of videos, or at least one video or something like that had like 20 or 30,000 views on YouTube, but he apparently wasn't doing quite that great whenever you're talking about his Steemit posts. What was his name?
I'm not sure the name off the top of my head. I will locate that for you quickly. I think that brings an interesting point, though, as soon as we reference the person and give this person credit. And the reason we would give them credit is because their piano videos were amazing. We discussed it amongst ourselves. To me, that brings up the interesting point of how some things can work really well on other social media platforms, but not necessarily work well on Steemit directly.
And if I'm not mistaken, and actually Psycho Chica just handed me the information regarding this person, the post was my journey as an aspiring YouTube pianist, and
That's
the
it.
username was Annie, A-N-I, Piano.
ANIPIANO, that's right.
Annie Piano, Annie, whatever, however you. I beg your pardon, Annie Piano. If I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, I severely apologize.
Well, and as important as the name is to go watch those videos because they were great.
Absolutely.
Well, and that's kind of one of those other things to remember right now is because the user base is small, there's not there's not a huge group everywhere yet.
Right.
When you scale up, yes, things will fill out. People in different areas will start getting the attention that they're looking for. But yeah, right now it's not necessarily.
Of course,
a
the
transition.
popular areas already have some people trying to emerge as leaders. We've talked about food, business, of course, cryptocurrency, since it's the basis, has got a lot of people in there. How to is a big area, but we're starting to see some branches. If you just look in the topics that scroll on the right side of the trending page, you can already see there's a lot of sub platforms starting to branch out, and I think that now is such a wonderful time to get involved and and become a leader of your own sub-platform right
Yes.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that because as a musician, my favorite kind of music, I referenced it earlier, is drum and bass, and that is a worldwide known
now.
genre.
Oh, it's huge. I love drum and bass.
It might
Yes,
not be
absolutely.
Liquid,
In fact-
personally.
Well,
Yeah.
I tag something drum and bass, and I don't want to misspeak here, but I'm fairly certain that I was maybe the first person that ever tagged something drum and bass, and that boggled my mind. I'd have to go back and check that, and I'm sorry if I'm misspeaking, but I think that I did check that day, and I didn't find any
Well, you're
content.
definitely in the top at least 3 of search terms. At least, as of
For
a
that
few
drum and
days
bass.
ago.
Now-
that can change pretty quick.
Yeah,
but-
What
liquid
does-
funk is a whole genre, subgenre of drum and bass, and I guarantee you I'm the first person to tag
What's
that.
the name of the subgenre?
Liquid funk.
Liquid funk. Okay, now you have to understand, considering we've got 50,000 people on Steemit right now, exactly what percentage of people actually understand the subgenres of any electronic music of right now?
I've been tagging things with a generic tag called DJ Mix.
Yes.
Just trying to get that going too.
Right,
With the
okay.
4 or 5 mixes of mine that I've put up.
Okay.
So we talked about then the Annie Piano videos, and that was your hidden gem of the week, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, a buried gold or whatever we might
Sure.
call it.
And did Psycho Chica? Did you have one? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Oh, mine was that. It was the Team Leibniz. We kind of
yeah.
started getting into
That's right.
the basic idea, without going too in depth, is we've all seen the people that either in chat or just in real life that you can see that they are just flipping the fuck out. And if you walk up to somebody that's doing that and basically say, "Don't flip the fuck out," what happens?
They flip further.
And
They're like,
that's-
you think
No.
I'm flipping out? You haven't seen flipping out
Right,
yet.
and that's kind of the whole point of this article by Team Leibniz is in those moments where they are flipping out and extremely emotional, they are being limbic. Logic and rational thought isn't something that you approach them with. You have to
sure.
bring them from that emotional state. Some tricks like getting them to talk about themselves. or
Empathy
something they
becomes
enjoy.
really powerful.
Now this was the "you're being too limbic" post that
Yeah,
he
exactly.
made, right? Okay.
Exactly.
And by the way, I hope we're pronouncing your name correctly. I don't know if we are, but once again, you're going to be somebody that we actually tag in the post.
I'm hoping I'm right with Team Leibniz as far
There-
as like
there's-
mathematician and philosophy.
There's one
Right.
thing that I can't actually credit the source on this because I don't remember it. So if somebody does remember it, say something in the comments. Somebody that mispronounces a word, you should never attack somebody who mispronounces a word because they learned it by reading.
Yes, that's a famous quote, and boy, I need to find out.
Yeah,
who
no,
said
it's
that.
killing me. It's
I'll
a
find
a
it.
famous quote that
Yes.
if somebody mispronounces a word,
That's a
it's because they
great
learned it by
insight, too.
reading, and that just goes to show that we have been reading a ton here lately.
There's
man.
words that fall out of my head that I have no idea where it came from, but it had to be from a book. 'cause
Gobbledygook.
There's a good one.
I know this is kind of a vague question, but
Yeah, I get it.
how often do you guys come across controversy on a daily basis within Steemit?
Actually, I have to be honest with you. The most of the time I come into contact with any controversy usually is not necessarily within the posts on Steemit itself, but usually within the chat room, the Steemit.chat. People will bitch like you will not
I would say that
imagine.
it's less controversy and more discussion. Like, to me, and there's some venting, but to me, a controversy is like really heated, really polarized. Here, it's like even the people that are taking a stance are taking one in effort to bring light to a discussion, and they're
Sure.
not like hammering it down like I'm right, you're wrong, this is a controversy, there's only one answer. It's more like this is a discussion that we need to have as a group, and here's my input.
Well, and just to, to give us a little bit of breathing room here, that quote is by Anonymous. So that's what Google told me, and I'm
Oh,
comfortable
shit.
with shaking my head at you and saying, I don't know who the hell said that.
Well,
All right,
okay.
cool.
I remember hearing it somewhere.
Yep, we heard it from
From
reading.
Anonymous.
No, we read it somewhere.
Yeah.
The closest thing I've kind of seen to actual controversy in post recently is I believe it was at Sean King, and then it was either like Vera Lynn or Lara Lemons. I might
Okay.
be getting the names wrong, but it was basically
I think I
on some
remember
of
that
those
name.
recent things as far as like objectifying women, or the concept of clickbait and the marketing behind it. I don't want to get into the discussion because it's its own sort of long drawn out thing that has to be talked
Again,
about.
though, it's discussion. It's
Exactly.
not so heated that it's controversial.
Right.
It's not make or break the platform. It's merely something that we should talk about.
Right. You can tell that there's passion behind it, but there's at least a logical reason and an explanation of where they're coming from, which then you can get to, okay, we can agree to disagree at this point, but you at least understand to some point, it's not just this, well, that's always the way it is sort of argument.
Well, and it's also open. We can agree to change our minds. I was definitely of the mindset of like, hey, if you want to be naked on camera, there's a lot of sites that'll pay you way more for that before this discussion. and then we talked about, hey, if you're famous and you want to be naked on camera, you could bring a whole lot of people to Steemit and everybody profits from that. So now I'm a little bit on the fence on that.
Well, there has to be some concern on the other side, though, of if you just flood Steemit with new users that are purely from, we'll just say, an ex-Playmate model. I'm not saying they're all bad, or there's a... Basically, if you just flood people in, you might lose some of the authenticity or the connections that would be there otherwise.
That's what I was talking about earlier.
If you're not careful. Again, I'm not trying to limit anything, but it's just one of those things that you have to think about of what happens to the discussion if you get a bunch of people
and
in.
I think that a lot of those people are going to realize pretty quickly that if they're not willing to be genuine, and I mean, maybe they turn into, there's definitely room for just a whole swarm of curators. And that could do good or bad to the site, but maybe they just end up curating some sub function of the site and the rest of it goes on as normal.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've been talking here for probably close to 2 hours now, and to me it seems like all of this is based off the website itself, how it works, the people that are there, and the content that we've experienced there in the few weeks that we've all been on there. And I guess that's what we're here for. This is the Steemit Talk Podcast. So these things happen, these conversations happen pretty easily, and I think that's a testament to the people and the things that we're seeing on there. I think that's a great thing. I couldn't sit here and talk to you for 2 hours about Facebook and how it's changed my life.
Oh
and what
my God,
things
no.
have happened.
Oh my God.
Facebook, I give you like 30 seconds. Just like, Facebook has made me anxious, nervous, self-conscious, and unwilling to post pictures of myself.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can tell you how it's fucked up my life,
Right.
but I can't tell you how
I'm
it's
worried
improved
about
it.
every job application I ever post now. I'm just a ball. Facebook has made me just nervous, anxious,
So
worried.
And okay, so we found the other side of the coin here, and that's the Steemit website, and we all have nothing, it seems like, but positive things to say to that. And that might seem like a infomercial in some sense, but it's not. I mean, this was all real talk.
If it were not Winston Wolfe that approached me with it, I would have said you're just some BS scammer. Like, if it wasn't somebody who I legit knew in person, which I think again is a tantamount to the platform, it requires person-to-person interaction to get me involved.
Well, and engage that ad block, right?
Right.
Yeah, mine's just real quick. It
Yeah,
seems
Kat.
to me like Steemit kind of flows just like this conversation that we're having.
Yes,
it all
exactly.
Flows perfectly.
Everybody in this room right now is trying to be themselves more than just about any other time. You know, everybody's trying to pour out exactly who they are right here, right now, for everybody to witness. And that's exactly what I've found a lot. Okay, and this actually brings up a good point, too. Stella Bell with her secret writer.
Oh my
yeah.
God, no! The amount of, and there's not to
Excellent.
say that she's 100% original. Like, secret writer's been a thing that's been done before,
Right, but at the
I
same
think-
time, she's getting stories from people who would not tell those stories to anybody in any other circumstance.
And I think the stories are getting the more recognition than you would in like a Reddit or a newspaper article or any. I mean, it's a new way of doing it.
You're right.
And it's one of those ways that's like you have that encouragement to be vulnerable because it's like, hey, there may be a little bit of money involved if you want to tell me something really embarrassing.
Okay. Now, at the same time, I have to admit, and I've even said this to her in one of the comments that I said to one of her stories that she wrote, one of those secret writer stories, that she is probably, even despite the money, is providing a form of release for these people that would otherwise never get it.
Well, and I talked about that last time as far as the people that have accrued status, they're having the ability to change people's lives.
Yes.
And she has a unique way of doing so in that she's expressing something that they can't express. But even the flip side of that is by her choosing those stories and making that one of her blogs, then that person's financial life, I would have to assume, changed a little bit.
Right. And like last week, whenever you were saying it, you were saying as far as the whales are concerned, they could change someone's life in the click of a mouse. And as far as Stella Bell is concerned, she's actually giving some form of relief. Now, granted, it's not exactly the same thing as, like a Dear Abby where they ask a question and something like that.
I think it's better.
No, it's way better because they're finally able to get something off of their chest.
Yes. So, okay, so you know what? This is a great place to kind of wrap all this up. And I think that, Psycho Chica, do you have anything else you'd like to add to the conversation?
Closest I would just put it is I actually had put out a post this last week in collaboration with Mr. Wang, the Nobody's Perfect.
Oh yeah, Mr. Wang.
It's not trying to take anybody away from Stella Bell and the Secret Writer. I think it absolutely has its place.
Right.
For the two of us, myself and Mr. Wang, we kind of went the other route of just wanted to tell our stories personally, and that's basically what the Nobody's Perfect campaign is about. Is be able to just kind of put it out, see that there's other people that have put these things out, and there's nothing that you have to do beyond just post it with the hashtag of Nobody's Perfect. You don't have to send it to anybody.
And I've used that a few times. I think that's... just real quick, 10 seconds, can you tell everybody what the Nobody's Perfect hashtag means or what it's meant to be used for?
Hashtag Nobody's Perfect.
Everyone has some issue. I'll put it this way. Perfection does not exist anywhere in nature. There is always some flaw when you start scratching the surface, looking deep enough or closer. But we've got this taboo in our culture where expressing these flaws isn't happening. People don't do it. Regardless of the underlying reason, we feel like you're trapped to just not talk about it. And
it can hurt you financially. Expressing your flaws can keep you from getting a job.
Well, I'm not saying that there's not the impractical reason for doing it.
I agree with
that. Sometimes it again just feels good to be able to get it out, and you kind of get empowerment by seeing other people do it as well.
Or existing in an environment that it's comforting to do so.
We'll post it in here. If you watch Mr. Wang's videos, just kind of some of like the mental health side of things that he has dealt with. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I want to support you like 120% on that. Like mental health awareness, and it's not about like waving a ribbon or anything. It's just about like getting it out there. Like I've struggled with a lot of things in my life that I'm unwilling to necessarily, or have been unwilling to talk about. And now I feel like I have a platform to do so where I'm not going to be punished for it. And maybe I might even be rewarded for giving my view on things. And I think that's wonderful.
I agree. And, okay, so just kind of going around the corner here. GAT, I appreciate you joining us. I think it's great to have...
Absolutely.
You played the role that I played last week, which is I'm the new guy. I don't really know what's going on. Here, answer some questions. And aside from me just being the new guy, then a week ago, I'm more proficient now. I've had a background in computers and social media my whole life. I feel like I'm running a Facebook page that has a life of its own. So It's nice to have somebody here with the perspective of this is new to me, and you really mean new. So I appreciate you joining us. Is there anything that you needed to say before we close this out?
I'm the outsider, and it's been my pleasure. Thank you guys. I enjoyed it.
Well, I feel like the goal over the next week is to get you on Steemit.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, what have you thought of a moniker or a username? Like, where might we find you in the future?
I would think just my initials, GAT. That would be perfect.
Hopefully that's
gonna have to get on there quick and make sure they're available.
Yeah,
then.
if it's not available, whatever you choose, we'll be sure to make sure that you get a little bit of attention
Quantum Anomaly, did you have anything that you needed to close out with?
I mean, for one, thanks for having me on the podcast, guys. No, I really appreciate it.
Outstanding.
I appreciate coming in and getting to be involved with you guys. And I know that, this is kind of just getting started, and I'm just getting started, but I feel like already, even if I don't do anything else with the platform, it's already given me a different outlook on life. And that's something that I can take wherever I go, whether I choose to continue to be involved or not. And I hope to continue to be involved with the platform for a very long time. So thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here.
In fact, I don't see why we wouldn't have you on as a kind of regular, because I mean, you've had some amazing input to offer, and we really appreciate that.
Well, and if you guys see me in chat, please feel free to say hi. It may take me a while to respond occasionally because I am I have to have 2 or 3 things going on at once to stay kind of at normal. Yeah. So if I don't reply immediately, I apologize, but I'm all over the internet, searching Quantum Anomaly. I'm everywhere. So.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, and I just want to reiterate what I had said earlier, and that is a question to the community, and that is, what do we want this to be? What is Steam supposed to be? What does it mean to you? And I also just want to plug one more time the fact that we're doing our song contest. I think the end result of that is going to be outstanding. As the musician of the group, I'm excited to hear
that. The more, the merrier. The more people that get recordings in on that, the better it's going to be. Don't make me sing 30 seconds of this song. Yeah. Every person that contributes takes a few seconds away from me.
Yeah, and I've even said as a comment, as sort of a reply into that particular thread too. Now, first of all, that thread is beyond its payout time. We don't care what we get paid for the thread to inform everybody that there is a submission going on. We want visibility to be the primary function.
And we want you to have fun doing it. Get involved.
Yes. I have this picture in my mind, and I can't wait to see what it comes to fruition.
Man. It's going to be awesome. I am not going to jack around. I'm going to be the guy that edits this thing together, and I am not going to mess around. But now, really quick here, I wanted to give a shout-out to Always Felicia. I know you were having some trouble last evening, and I hope that my post helped you out. My reply helped you out. You were having some trouble with some motivation and some confidence in the system, and I hope now that you've found Steemit.chat and that you are planning on I hope that you're planning rather on involving yourself more into the community and other people's posts and things like that. Stick around. I actually enjoy a lot of your posts. I'm glad that you plan on sticking around. But anyway, this is Steemit Talk, and we will talk to you, everybody, here next week. All right?
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks to everybody who's listening.
I am Winston Wolf.
I'm Gifted Gaia.
Psycho Chica.
And I'm Quantum Anomaly.
All right. And
I'm the OutsiderGAT.
And the OutsiderGAT. And we will see everybody next week.
Love you, Steemit.